Newton's second law, force is the rate of change of linear momentum. Similarly, torque is rate of change of angular momentum. Let's consider this rotating blade. It will have an angular momentum as shown. Now, assume that the helicopter has tilted as shown due to some torque action. If you vectorially subtract the first angular momentum from the second, you can figure out the torque required for this operation. It is interesting to note that to turn the helicopter forward, the torque applied should be towards sidewards. That means to tilt the helicopter forward, the swash plate should tilt sidewards as shown. You can again verify from Newton's second law of motion that if you keep the front portion at negative angle of attack and the back portion at positive angle, the helicopter will simply turn sidewards. Gyroscopic precession is a truly intriguing phenomenon, but it conforms perfectly with Newton's second law of motion. If you just lift the bottom swash plate without tilting it, you can see how the angle of attack of all three blades will vary by the same amount. This means that the helicopter lift force will be the same in all three blades, and the helicopter can move up or down without any tilt. Such blade control is known as collective pitch. If you have ever seen a helicopter, you are all sure to have seen a tail rotor. Every single rotor helicopter needs this tail rotor for effective operation. Without the tail rotor, the helicopter fuselage would have spun as shown. This is due to a consequence of Newton's third law of motion. To understand it, let's focus on the force transmission part of the rotor. We know the rotor gets the force of rotation via a bevel gear connected to the engine. The engine bevel gear transmits force to the rotor bevel gear as shown. However, according to Newton's third law of motion, the rotor bevel gear should transmit an equal and opposite force to the engine bevel gear. This reaction force will make the whole helicopter turn opposite to the blade rotation along the helicopter's center of gravity. The function of the tail rotor is to prevent such helicopter rotation by producing a force at the tail. By properly adjusting pitch angle of the tail rotor blades, the pilot can easily manipulate the tail rotor force. This way, with the help of the tail rotor, yaw motion of the helicopter can also be achieved. All the physics behind helicopter operation means that flying a helicopter is a truly challenging task. Minute variations in blade angles make huge variations in helicopter behavior. Often, the pilot has to do two or more operations together to achieve the desired motion. Moreover, the helicopter does not respond instantaneously to your inputs, so the pilot should possess a good sense of balance and coordination to navigate the helicopter properly. Your support at Patreon.com enables us to make further free educational videos. Please support us at Patreon.com. Thank you. Have you ever wondered what the protruding parts beneath airplane wings do? They are flap activating mechanisms.
Hello, Pizet.
In other words, inside this protruding cover, there is an interesting mechanism that activates the flaps. We will explore this concept in detail in this video. Airplane wings have flaps attached to the end. By activating the flaps, we can increase the lift production. You can see how the flaps should move for this purpose. It should rotate as well as translate. Let's understand one of the simplest flap mechanisms that facilitates this motion. The specialty of this mechanism is that by moving just one link, we achieve the desired motion. Let's simplify the mechanism. This is basically a 4-bar linkage. When the input crank moves, the output rocker rotates as shown. Let's modify this mechanism to achieve the desired motion. First, the length of the rocker arm is increased. The length of the coupler is also increased.
ចឹងគ្រូណែនាំតិច
One more link is connected to the
ការសូម
end of the
ច្បាប់ការ
rocker
អីហ្នឹង
arm.
គឺនៅក្នុងនេះទេនេះ
A final limb is
មាន
connected
ឈ្មោះរៀង
between
ខ្លួន
these
ហើយចូល
arms.
leave comment ទៅសូមច្បាប់តាមឈ្មោះមក
Let's
បើគ្រូ
concentrate on
តង់
points
គ្រូ
A
ពេ
and
កតែ
B
ព្រោះ
on
ច្
the
រើ
rocker
ពេ
arm.
ក
It is clear that point B will have a
អ
higher
ញ្ចឹងគ្រូ
speed
ចាំ
than
សិន
point
នៅពេលដែល
A.
ចុចលើឈ្មោះ
This
ហ្នឹងទៅ
speed will be
ដល់
transferred to points
កិច្ច
C
ការធ្វើ
and D of
មួយ
the
ខែ
limb
ធ្វើ
via
បាន
the
12
connecting
សន្លឹកចឹង
arms.
នឹងរឿងហ្នឹង
In short, point C of the limb moves faster than point
អានេះ
D.
ដូចស្រីរត់នេះមួយខែឃើញទេ
This motion will make the
អូ
output
មក
limb
វែង
turn
ឡាយនេះ
as
ឃើញទេ
shown.
ឃើញមានថ្ងៃទីនេះថ្ងៃអង្គារទី 13
A translatory
Ngày
motion
puốt thì
is
đập
also
buồn.
guaranteed as a result
ថ្ងៃ
of
ពុធ
this.
ទី 15 អញ្ចឹ
A
ង
cover
វត្ត
is
មានត្រ
connected
ង់
with
តាម
the
ហ្នឹងណា
limb and is
Ra
then
lại.
welded with the flap.
ហើយ
So the
មាន
flap
មក
will also follow the
ខ្ញុំ
desired
មក
motion.
តាថ្ងៃហ្នឹងមកចូលតែ meeting អត់គាត់មេរៀនហ្នឹងសូមច្បាប់
These
សូមអីសូម
protruding
ហ្នឹង
parts also act like anti-shock bodies,
ហ្នឹង
thus allowing the airplane to fly more
តែ
aerodynamically.
អាទិត្យក៏ចូលចាំ
The
សិន
next
ក៏
time
ចូល
you board an airplane, try to figure out what kind of mechanism is used in the massive protruding covers beneath the
អ្នកដែល
wings.
អត់ប្រាប់ផង
To learn how does an airplane
Đang-
fly, please check the
Trong
linked
phương pháp
video.
tôi lẽ tam đang
Thank
ngay.
you.
ពីណាគេសូមច្បាប់ច្បាប់ទេនេះលីសានេះសូមច្បាប់នេះអត់
The
សូវសិនទេ
Airbus A350,
Brunei Norm
the most
Norm
advanced
Norm
commercial
Norm
aircraft in the world.
ហើយសម្រាប់អ្នក
Its
ថ្មី
construction,
មក
nothing short of a
អ្នក
masterpiece
ចូលថ្មីណា
on the grand scale and down to the
ព្រោះ
smallest
យើងមានលំ
detail.
ហាត់សម្រាប់
2.5
លឹក
million
នៅក្នុងអាទិត្យ
components,
នេះតែក្រោយយើងរៀនភាសាមួយអាទិត្យ
1,800
រៀនរំលឹកមេរៀនមួយអាទិត្យ
professionals for
រៀ
the
នភាសា
final assembly alone.
ចឹងសម្រាប់
Together,
អូនដែលចូល
constructing
ថ្មី
an
ថ្មី
aircraft the likes of which the world has never seen before.
អានេះគឺ
The
ជា
goal,
ឯកសារ
minimal fuel consumption, maximum range,
លំហាត់សិតអ
a
ត់មាន
product
ចម្លើយ
of
ទេ
precision workmanship,
ហើយគឺយើង
expertise, and
នៅ
quite
ក្នុងក្រុម
simply,
នឹងសិតតែ
pride. And all this
តែកំពុងតែ
is
ធ្វើ
only
វា
possible
ដូចគ្នា
thanks to perfect mega manufacturing.
បាទ សម្រាប់អ្នកទៅបញ្ចូលថ្មីនេះគឺអាចមើលហ្វានេះឃើញវិញអ្នកដែលចូលថ្មីដូចពិសិដ្ឋដូចនេះដីហើយនឹងម្នាក់ទៀតរាស៊ី
Toulouse, France, the headquarters of Europe's largest aircraft
ចូលទៅ
manufacturer.
ក្នុងហ្នឹង
In Blagnac,
បងខ្សោយ
Airbus
ត្រង់ណា
workers
បងដឹង
construct
ខ្លួន
the
ឯង
most
ណា
advanced passenger
ឧទាហរណ៍ថា
aircraft
បង
in the
ខ្សោយ
world,
អនុគម
the Airbus
exponential
A350.
ចឹងបងបើ
1
ក
o'clock in the
អនុគម
afternoon,
exponential
one of the
ធ្វើពី
fleet
ល
of
ំហាត់
Beluga
មូលដ្ឋាន
transport
ទឹក
aircraft
គោល
arrives with a
ដោះ
delivery
ស្រាយ
of
នៃការវិ
components,
ស្វកម្ម
so called because
រហូ
its
ត
shape
ដល់
resembles
ចំណុច
that of the white
សិក្សា
whale.
មួយ
It is key
ហ្នឹង
to the
ជាមេ
construction
រៀន
process.
រំលឹក
A 1,500
Tôi gọi này
cubic
nom
meter
trang
cargo
không mưa phao
compartment
hơn anh
and a
này.
47 metric ton payload. An entire
Hay
fuselage section
សម្រាប់
of the
ចង្អល់គឺ
A350 fits
អូ
in
ន
the
អាច
belly
តម្លាក់
of a
ចូលនៅ
single
នេះដូចពួក
beluga,
គេដែរនេះ
or, as in this case,
Chẳng là
one of
bên
its
này.
wings.
គ្រូ
Measuring
គ្រូ
32
ចាប់ផ្ដើម
meters
ឆ្លើយ
in length,
ឆ្លើយពីលើ
it would be practically impossible to build the A350 without the Beluga fleet.
តែបើម្ចាស់អត់នៅក៏អត់ឆ្លើយ
Baptiste
ដែរ
Tournay must see to it that his team unloads all the freight within an hour. Every delay triggers a chain reaction, disrupting construction of the world's most advanced passenger aircraft. Unloading the unique Beluga super transporters is Baptiste's dream job.
នេះមកតើមកគ្រូសួរថាសុខាមកអត់
I'm very proud of our Beluga fleet. They're key to
Okay,
the
I'm
entire assembly
Hello,
operation running
Mata.
smoothly. I've loved planes since
I
childhood.
bet.
My father and my grandfather worked at Airbus. Our family has always been fascinated with aviation.
J'affectionne particulièrement les avions.
The Beluga fleet flies wings,
ចឹងគ្រូនិយាយ
fuselage
បដាគ្រូ
sections,
កែលំហា
cabin
ត់ជួយយើងប
furnishing,
ដាសម្រាប់
and
សិស្សថ្មី
vertical
ដែលអត់ដឹង
tailplanes for the
Crewnày
A350
ngon
from
lắm.
around Europe to these
ក្នុង
assembly
មួយអាទិត្យ
hangars
នេះ
in
គឺយើងចូល
Toulouse.
រំលឹកមេរៀនគឺធ្វើដោយពួកគាត់ចូល
4,500
ទៅធ្វើលំ
suppliers
ហាត់
and 12 Airbus
ចុះម៉ោងធ្វើលំហាត់
facilities
ជា
are
ម៉ោងណា
involved in its
គឺ
production.
គ្រូបើក meeting
The
តែរយៈ
background
ពេល
behind
1
this
ម៉ោងទេ
complex puzzle?
សម្រាប់កន្លះម៉ោងដែលនៅសល់
Airbus
គឺ
was
ពួកយើងចូល
established
ទៅ
in
រ
the
ំលឹកមេរៀនខ្លួនឯង
1960s as a
ប៉ុន្
consortium
តែ
of
នៅក្នុងការរំ
companies
លឹកនោះ
from
មិនមែន
across
ធ្វើ
the
កិច្ចការហើយ
European
អត់តម្លាក់
continent.
ទេណាតម្លាក់ចូលក្នុង
Different
ឈ្មោះ
locations have different
ព្រោះ
areas
មក
of
ពួកយើងចូល
expertise
ទៅលៀប
to
ខមមិន
this
បាន
day.
គ្រប់គ្នាហើយផ្ញើឯកសារនឹងចូលបានដូចគ្នាដាក់ថ្ងៃទីឲ្យត្រឹមត្រូវចាំគ្រូណែនាំតាក់ទង
Of particular importance to the production of
កា
the
រផ្ញើនឹង
A350
យកស្រីរ
are
ត
the
ជាគំរូ
sites
នៅ
in
ក្នុងនឹង
France,
Và
Spain,
Ban là
Germany,
OK.
and Great Britain. The nose and
បាទមកអញ្ចឹង
midsection
limit
come
មួយ
from
នេះយើង
these
ចំនួន
Andes air
ហើយលើ
plant.
6
The
ចូល
tail
នៅក្នុង
section
ស៊ីន
from
ទៅ
Hamburg.
ចំនួន
The
វាចូល
wings
ទៅ
are
មកណា
manufactured in Broughton
អញ្ចឹង
in
អានេះ
Bremen. The
ហើយ
horizontal
លើ
tail plane
6
in Getafe.
លើកវាស្អីគុណ3ដក
All of these shipments
1
must
ហើយ
be
នេះ
perfectly
2 ស៊ី
coordinated.
ន
Head
ហើយ
of the
លើ
unit,
6
Nabil
លើក
Tahiri.
វាស្អីគុណ2
Alors
ដក
notre rôle
3
justement à nous,
Euh,
c'est
c'est
de
une-
s'assurer
It's our job to ensure that all the
Hai
parts
lưu
are
muối.
transported on time.
បូក
en
1
heure. Donc
ខាងលើនេះបាន
We
ដល់
have to
1
always
លើ
make
2
sure that all of the
ស៊ីនហើយ
components
លើ
are on
6ស្មើ
hand.
1លើ 2 1លើ 2 គីបបាន1លើ 8 1លើ 8 គឺ8បាន1 1 11
Thanks
ចូល
to
ណា
our fleet of transport aircraft, we can get anything that's missing here straight away.
មិនកំណត់
il nous faut 3 heures pour
We need around 3 hours to pick up a part from
សូន
anywhere
ចុះ
inside
ខាងក្រោ
here.
មសូនណា
The Beluga provides us with an extremely
Ivan
quick
Moy.
and safe way of getting all the parts we need in a timely manner.
pour aller chercher des sections,
1លើ 2 បាន1លើ 4 1លើ 4បាន1លើ 2
d'avoir un système qui fonctionne dans tous les cas de figure.
ហើយលើ
Even when
6
everything is running smoothly, the A350
Nhìn hai
still
lượt
has
muối
to
bằng
go
muối
through
lên
7
muối lên
stations.
pi.
With 120 aircraft a year, this demands
Muối lên
absolute
pi, lên
perfection.
gram, muối lên
Everything
buồn.
begins in station 59.
ចឹងបាន1លើ 4
The
គុណ
first
2បាន1
stage
លើ
of the
2
final
ដក
assembly
3
line.
គុណ 1
Around
លើ
40
2
workers
ហើយ
fit
ដក
out the
1
fuselage with the
Mà sao
large
được chưa?
components of the passenger cabin,
កែនេះលេខ
such
ចឹងở đây
as
ណា
the
បា
galley
ទ
and washrooms.
ចឹងយើងចេះ
Nine
ជួសទាំងអស់
such
គ្នាមក
fuselage
កែនេះអត់ចេះ
segments
ជួស
can
អី
be worked
ប្រាប់
on in parallel here.
នៅក្នុង comment ហ្នឹងបើអត់ប្រាប់ហើយតេស្តសមត្ថភាពធ្វើបានប្រ
Responsible
មា
for
ណ
this
ភាគរយ
work is Francois Louis
គឺ
Godin.
យើង
He
ដឹងសមត្ថ
oversees
ភាព
each
ខ្លួនយើង
machine for 80 days,
Riêng
from
mình
the
làm nát
first
và
assembly
xôn
step
để xôn.
to completion.
ចឹងខាងលើនោះគឺ
This is where
យើងបាន
assembly
លីមីត
begins.
អិចថិតទៅរកផាយលើ
The
6
sections of the
អានេះយើងអាច
A350's
សរសេរថា
fuselage arrive
2
here from all over Europe.
X
Nous avons une première
ទាំង
station
អស់គីប
d'installation ici, ce qui est vraiment
ដក
We
1
work on outfitting the passenger cabin
Dạ,
from
cái
the
đầu
very
đấy,
first
riêng lại
station
cái phao
to
của
the
người
last
ta mà.
station.
c'est que la
យើ
première
ង
opération
សាក
que
ល
nous
បង
réalisons
X ការ៉េ
What
ដ
makes
ក
this
3X
assembly line unique
Bộ
is that we
muối đã
fit
được
out
phao
the
của người ta
passenger
đã
cabin
làm
and assemble the
យើងឲ្យមាន
aircraft
វិ
in
ធី
parallel.
ដាក់ច្រើនណាស់
paralléliser
អានេះ
l'assemblage de
ពី X
l'avion
អានេះ
et l'assemblage de
This
l'avion.
change to the
Hay thằng Mac đã
workflow
ở
allows us
môi.
to minimize production
ដ
time.
ក 1
Fabrication de l'avion en
ដក
phase
1 គុណដក 1
et
អញ្ចឹង
ainsi limiter
គឺ
l'emploi.
ដក X អានេះបានដក X
6:30 in the
ដក
morning.
2X ចឹង
Team
បានដក
briefing at the
3X ស្មើ
start
គូ
of
ក
the
តា
shift.
ចឹងដាក់គូក
15
តាគឺ
workers,
2X ដក 1
mostly
កតា X ដក
electricians
1
and installation technicians,
ចឹងខាងក្រោមនេះ
divide
គឺ
up the day's
យើង
tasks
បាន
amongst themselves.
បើយើងបើ
They
ក្នុង
have
នេះ
to
ជាស៊ីន
install the
ឃើញ
galleys,
ស៊ីនការ៉េស៊ីន
washrooms, and crew
បើ
rest
ក្នុងនេះ X
compartments.
ចឹងយើងអាចដាក់
Any
បានដូចគ្នា
special
កន្លែង
requests
ហ្នឹង
from
គឺ
the
ជំនួស
airlines are
X ដែលស៊ីន
incorporated
X
here
នៅវិញ
too.
ណាអញ្ចឹងយើងបានពី
The outfitting work is
Guys,
performed on all
X,
fuselage sections and
dot
shifts.
muối.
This way, no team has
Ta.
to wait for another.
ស្
In
នេះ
the
X ដ
tail
ក
section
1
of a future A350, 2 workers make preparations
Okay.
for the installation of the galley.
ហើយបន្តមកទៀត
Assembly
ស្មើនឹង
instructions
លីមីត
individually
X
packed
ខិតទៅរក
screws.
ផាយ
It all
លើ
resembles a
6
bit like a flat
អា
pack
នេះចូល
wardrobe
អា
from a
គីបដាក់
furniture
3គីប
store.
មកបាន2ស្នេះ X
Malheureusement, ce
It's
n'est
not
pas
as
Moy.
simple as it looks.
un meuble Ikea.
It's
Cái
very
tá.
different to screwing together an IKEA bookshelf.
2
That would be
ស្នេះ
great, but it isn't like that,
X
unfortunately.
ការ៉េ
It takes highly trained
បូកនឹង
craftsmen.
2ស្
Even
នេះ
the smallest
X
of installations can affect the safety of the finished aircraft. As such, special
Cho nên những bạn
expertise
là
is
pi
required for
snip,
every single
X dot
operation.
muối.
It takes months
Cái
and
tá
often
snip,
years to train our
X dot
workers.
muối.
plusieurs mois et plusieurs années.
ចឹងស្មើនឹងលីមីត
In
X ខិតទៅរក
contrast with
ផាយ
a
លើ
cupboard from a
6
furniture store, it's
អានេះជំរួ
critical
លបាន
that
ហើយ
nothing
ណា
can shift,
ចឹងអានេះបាន
even
4
during the most severe
Snip.
turbulence.
ការ៉េ
No
X
screw may fail.
បូក
A
2
big
ស្នេះ
responsibility
X
for the workers.
បូក1នៅលើស្នេះ X ដក1សម្រួលមួយកតាហើយត្រូវចំនួននេះ
Just
ចូល
as
ទៅ
it
ដ
is
ង
for the quality inspectors in
Hey,
the
one,
adjacent
one.
fuselage section.
ស្នេះ
They have to first
Cái
approve
đấy,
the delivered
hai
fuselages
lưng
for
của mũi.
outfitting.
Bộ
But only
phi,
if every
snip,
bulkhead,
hai lưng của
every
mũi.
electrical component,
Bộ
and
mũi.
even the floor is free of
ខាងក្រោម
defects.
នេះបានស្នេះ
The
ហើយ
supplier
លើ
has
6
already ultrasonically inspected it for damage on departure. But
Cái,
a lot could
đục
have
lại
happened during
cái-
transport, and nothing can be left to
ហើយគ្រូអត់
chance.
ប្រាប់ចម្លើយទេទុកឲ្យជួសខ្លួនឯង
The next fuselage has
គ្រូប្រាប់តែ
already
របៀប
been
ធ្វើប៉ុណ្ណឹង
released.
ឯង
Craftsmen seal the floor where the lavatory will later be installed. The film prevents moisture from penetrating the floor. Like everywhere in the aircraft, there are electrical cables there too. And there are more of them in the high-tech A350 than in most other commercial aircraft. There are instructions
con muốn
for
mà
every
nào?
task.
Ờ,
Each worker
rệt rấy.
must double-check that the work has been performed to the exacting
Rệt rấy.
standard. In the first hangar, the teams install
Rệt rấy.
components that would no longer fit through the doors
Ất mà
once
tí,
the
chẳng ất
fuselage
kè
is
tí.
assembled. A resting cabin for the pilots arrives. The Airbus crew installs it behind the
Malay.
cockpit and above the galley. The A350
Malay.
is a long-haul
Malay.
airliner. It can fly non-stop for up to 20 hours. There are several pilots on board for such flights who take it in turns to rest. Work on the fuselage sections continues without a break. They are, after all, expected to
ចា
fly
លោកនេះ
away
គ្រូអត់ទាន់ឆ្លើយ
soon.
ទេ
Next up is Station
Oh,
50 of the
that's right,
final
eh?
assembly line.
ភ្លេចអាន
The
ពី
fuselage sections are now
វា
ready for
មក
their
ឡាយអ
big
ត់មកទេ
moment, the so-called marriage. Waiting at Station
And
50
team.
are Deputy Unit Head Arnaud Herry and Team Manager Wilfried
Kim Srin.
Montan. They have the nose section for an A350
Srin.
maneuvered into the hangar.
តែលោកគ្រូលំហាត់នេះខ្ញុំដោះស្រាយឯងចេះខ្ញុំ
Arnaud has worked at Airbus for 16 years and on the A350 final assembly line for
Good.
6 of these. The aircraft is very popular.
គុណអត់មុន
Over
កណា
250 of them have been
ដាក់
delivered
ផ្អើល
today,
ក្រុមទៀតឡើង
and there are orders for a further 890 on the books. With this number of outstanding orders, every stage of production is subject to an extremely strict timetable.
ចេះវិញហ៎គុណបានគូខ្សែកោងវាអត់ចា
គ្រូលោកគ្រូ
អូកន្លែងចេះហើយណា
En effet, quand on voit le nombre de
Because of the number of parts that have to be assembled to
Yeah,
build an
Lee.
aircraft, and the large number of subcontractors, partners, and factories that supply them to us, there
Don't I
are
need to
a
know?
host of risk factors.
ces différents morceaux.
We often have to set priorities in order to ensure that the aircraft arrives at the next station on time.
បានចេះទេ
We sometimes allow work that has not yet been finished to be completed at the next station.
ចេះវិញទៀតបាត់
Our overriding priority is to avoid at all costs the next station being prevented from
ចេះ
continuing
ចេះ
with the assembly.
រៀបត្រែអត់មកទេ
Majeur de construction de l'avion.
Once the nose section is in place, the
Okay.
transport operator maneuvers the middle section
ហើ
into
យ
the
ប្រងឲ្យ
hangar.
គ្រូធ្វើទាំងអស់ឬមិន
Both sections are already equipped with lines for the hydraulic, water, oxygen, and air conditioning systems. They are already
អត់ទេ
insulated,
លោកគ្រូខ្ញុំ
and wiring
សួរ
harnesses
លោក
are
គ្រូ
installed
បង្ហា
under
ញ
the
ឥឡូវ
ceiling.
មួយតើលោកគ្រូ
ចឹងហ៎
ព្រោះ
The
វាពិ
tail
បាកទាំងអ
section
ស់
waits
ខ្ញុំអត់
in
ចេះ
front of the hangar.
អើចឹង
In the case of the A350-1000, the 3 fuselage sections together measure 17.8 meters in length, 7 meters more than the shorter version.
អូខេបើតែបើញូ
The operators align the fuselage sections with a tenth of a
14
millimeter
វាបាន
precision before they join them together with around 40,000 fasteners.
2មកហើយ E ក្រេចេញបាន E 4ចេញបាន2ចឹង 2E ដក E 2E ដក E បូក 2
As with the rest of the
People
construction,
feel it.
most
They
of this
really
work
don't
is
wanna-
performed by hand. Over 10,000 rivets hold the carbon fiber
Yeah.
fuselage sections together.
ចាលោកគ្រូ
No other aircraft uses such a high
Well,
proportion of
I'm
carbon
glad I
fiber
didn't
as the A350.
នេះ
Because the material is extremely hard, the workers have to use especially high-quality drilling equipment.
ថានេះទៅរៀងជ្រៅ E
53% of the A350 is
ក្នុងនោះដក
composed
E
of
ហ្នឹង
carbon
វា
composite. It's 40% lighter than
វាកើតពី
aluminum
E
and
ការ៉េ
allows
គុណ
much
E
more complex shapes.
វា
Each
ដាក់ដ
layer
ក E សិន
consists
មក
of super thin plies of
អានេះ
carbon
បាន
fiber
9E
embedded
ការ៉េ
in a
ហើយ
synthetic resin matrix.
ចេញមក
And there are several layers, a process
វាដ
that
ក E
takes a few
9ចេញ
days.
បាន 3 E ការ៉េចេញបាន E
In the aviation industry, composites are viewed as the materials of the future and are increasingly replacing aircraft aluminum.
គុណ
The
3
aircraft is fitted with its iconic nose gear at this station, all in parallel with the myriad other processes taking place. This component alone is constructed from around 1,000 parts, primarily made from high tensile
នេះបាន E
steel.
ការ៉េក្នុងនោះវា E ការ៉េ
Is
គុណ
installed by hand.
3ចេះ
Every connection is bonded and bolted
ចឹ
for
ងវា
safety.
បាន1ចានេះវាបាន1 E ការ៉េនេះ E ការ៉េខាងនេះចេញដកអានេះ
Following installation,
by
the workers check
your
the functionality of the landing gear.
vô đóរបៀបធ្វើអ
លោកអូ
ញ្
ឥ
ចឹង
ឡូវ81ក៏ស្មើ9ការ៉េលោកគ្រូ
9ការ៉េ9ច្រឡំពេញ
It's
នឹង
activated by remote control instead of the pilot pressing a button. The nose wheel must deploy at the same speed it would during approach.
អូខេធ្វើអញ្ចឹងមកសុខាយកដល់
យកលើលោកគ្រូ
បាទ
ខ្ញុំអត់ដឹងអា
The nose gear is now operational. The A350 fuselage must again switch hangers to be fitted with its main landing gear. The workers hydraulically lower the 32-ton fuselage to rest on its support wheels.
ហើយរត់មក
ចាលោកគ្រូ
A big moment. The fuselage of the wide-body jet will soon leave the hangar in one piece.
Malgré toutes les routines,
Despite the routine, you're always learning something new, whether at a personal, technical,
អានោះវាមួយ
organizational
ដកអី
level.
មួយ
You
ដក
start
កុក
each day in good spirits, happy
មួយ
to
ដ
be
កកុក
building
ការ៉េ
these amazing
តែ
cutting-edge
មួយដកកុក
products.
ស្មាយគេ
It requires
មួយ
total
ដកកុក
dedication
ស្ងា
at
ត់
all
នឹង
times
ពីស៊ីន
from
ការ៉េ
everyone.
មក
de la technologie et qui demande un engagement de
រ
tous
ត់តាមរូបមន្តនឹងមកខាងក្រោមនេះបាន X ស្វ័យគុណ4
The massive
ប្រធានហ្នឹង
fuselage
យក
rests
មក
on
ពី
its
ណាប្រ
wheels
ធាន
for
ដើម
the
វានៅ
first
ណា
time, and everyone holds their
ខ្ញុំយក
breath.
មកពីក្នុងហ្វាល់លោកគ្រូដែរ
លើក្រោយចាំពីងហត់ហ្វាល់មកគឺព្រោះអីជួនកាលអាចថាពេលខ្លះអញ្ចឹងក៏អីចឹងទៅក៏តា
The operator of the aircraft tractor grabs the nose wheel to carefully push it out of the
បើ
hangar,
ក្នុងហ្វាល់
just
គេ
like
ដាក់អញ្ចឹង
maneuvering
វា
around the
ក្នុងករ
airport.
ណីខ្លះគេអីគ្រូជួនកាលឲ្យគ្រូភ្លេចប៉ុន្តែហ្នឹងមិនអីទេអត់បញ្ហានេះជំនួស0ចូលទៅកូដ0 1យ៉ាង1រៀងមិនកំណត់
After being joined up at Station 50, the cigar, as it's affectionately known, continues on its journey. A cigar is what an assembled fuselage without wings is called in aviation jargon. These will be fitted at the next station.
2 សនីការ៉េលើក2យល់ទេ
យកលោកគ្រូ
បាទហើយនៅលើ X ដូចគុណ4អញ្ចឹងស្មើនឹង
The next hangar, known as Station 40, can accommodate 4 cigars at the same time. They'll be almost complete aircraft when they leave. The aircraft will be 90% finished when it leaves this station. Wings, main landing gear, tail assembly. The specialists here attach everything visibly missing from the outside of the aircraft. To maintain efficiency, several teams work in parallel at this station too. A crane lifts the wing into position that will later support the aircraft in flight. The 32-meter-long and 6-meter-wide wings are the largest aircraft components ever to be fabricated from carbon fiber composite material. The wings of the A350 are something very special. Their development was painstaking and contained over 4,000 hours of wind tunnel testing. Positioning them is an incredible feat too. Several thousand rivets will now keep the wings attached to the fuselage at speeds of up to 960 kilometers per hour.
ចាលោកគ្រូ
Flap design is optimized to reduce vortex generation, resulting in better lift efficiency and improved low-speed performance, while reducing aerodynamic generated noise from the wing. A special droop nose is integrated into the inboard wing leading edge. It helps the aircraft remain flyable even at low airspeeds. This facilitates takeoff and landing. Like the wing, the horizontal tailplane of the A350 is made from carbon too. It has a span of 19 meters and was manufactured in Getafe, Spain. As with the fuselage segments and the wings, all of the electrical and hydraulic systems have already been installed.
មកវិញទៅគុណ16ព្រោះ2ទៅគុណ9នេះ
The vertical tail plane comes from Stade in Germany. It's the only component that is painted prior to installation due to its eventual height. The main landing gear of the A350-1000 consists of two six-wheel bogies. During landing, it has to support a weight of up to 233 metric tons. Following installation, Florent Cubereau and his colleagues connect the hydraulic lines that control the landing gear. A combination of adhesive and bolts is used here as well. Laurent hasn't always worked on landing gear. He used to be a bricklayer before he applied for a job at Airbus.
I come from Toulouse. Airbus is the biggest employer here, and they started this new program with the A350. They were recruiting workers, so I decided to try my luck at Airbus. After the interviews, I was given training and passed the exams. Then I was assigned here to Station 40.
Airbus is not only the biggest employer in Toulouse, aircraft construction is pretty much a part of the regional identity here. The scale of the facility is truly impressive. 23,000 people work for Airbus in the hangars and offices surrounding Toulouse-Blagnac Airport. They work 5 days a week in 2 shifts. Lunchtime is staggered. The early shift workers go to lunch first, then the office staff. The cooks working in the 15 restaurants around the factory site prepared 2.6 million meals each year, handling 13.5 tons of steak and 10.5 tons of salad in the process. There are 20 company bus routes operating on the Airbus site. They transport 800,000 passengers each year. Anyone traveling to work with their own car can expect to be subject to strict controls. The site traffic monitoring service takes adherence to vehicle controls very seriously. No one is allowed to drive faster than 30 kilometers per hour.
A white Renault, 43 kilometers per hour.
Okay, understood. I'll intercept it.
Those violating the traffic regulations risk losing permission to enter the site.
Hello, sir. I'm from Site Security. Can you switch your engine off and show me your ID and parking permit, please?
Another citation means suspension of the parking permit.
You can use this to pick up your parking permit in 8 days' time. You have to go to gate B to get it back. Have a good day, sir.
Those who persistently violate the rules lose their permit permanently. Back at Station 40. Work continues after lunch, while wings, landing gear, and tail assembly are being mounted to the outside. Specialists are inside the plane, outfitting the cabin. Installing the cabin interior in parallel to assembling the aircraft is new. This change alone has reduced construction time by a third. Francois Louis, head of cabin installation, makes sure that there are no delays with the installation.
We previously saw the start of assembly when the large components are installed. Everything that wouldn't fit through the cabin door later, once the fuselage is joined together. Here we're installing the so-called floor-to-floor. The wall lining, overhead compartments, and also the safety components, like the signals for cabin crew and passengers, and the overhead units that contain the oxygen masks.
The cabin functions are regulated by a central control unit. In the A350, it ensures 20% higher air humidity and higher cabin pressure than has been usual until now, making it feel a lot closer to normal life on Earth. While the interior is being installed, a worker is in the cargo hold with a rag and brush, Cedric Cavaros.
I have to clean this area here before I fix the insulating material in place. Whatever is underneath it will no longer be visible or accessible. Any residues like a metal swarf or other dirt that could be hidden behind it must be removed. Only when we're absolutely sure that this area is pristine can we lower the lining and fix and place the insulation between the exterior and interior of the aircraft. There are some traces here, for example. I use a cleaning cloth with a special solvent for this. There's something here too. Now I'm sure everything is clean, and I can close up the insulation.
The big moment for the entire team at Station 40 arrives. Their aircraft will rest entirely on its own wheels for the first time. Everything must be perfectly clean. No residues, no drop of oil is allowed to contaminate the brand new aircraft or its tires. The workers activate the hydraulic system. They lower their over 100-ton creation. It's an emotional moment for everyone, including for Arnaud.
You could say it's like the end of a pregnancy, a kind of birth. But there's a birth at a station every 8 to 9 days. Over time, that's an awful lot of babies. There's a part of us in every plane. We all put a lot of energy and dedication into our work. It makes us very happy to have done our bit.
Arnaud's colleagues check the tire pressure under the load of the aircraft's weight. The aircraft is about 90% finished. It's time to bid farewell to Station 40. The doors open for the station's latest offspring to enter the world.
Building aircraft is a real pleasure and is something I'm proud of. This is matched by the great sense of responsibility we feel when later our families, our children, or friends climb aboard. So we're committed to doing a perfect job every day, never overlooking anything, and building aircraft of the highest quality. And it's true, you can't help being filled with a certain pride each time you see one of these huge machines flying away.
Everything is ready for the big moment.
Limit Ekatoroson bàn mùi đỏ cột rê trong mùi đỏ cột rê thì mà này xin
cà rêវិញម្ដងអ្នកការនេះបានយកប្រើហើយយើងស្មើនឹងស៊ីនការ៉េ2អេគីបតាមមួយបូកកុស
The openings in the machine are covered to protect against rain before the aircraft is moved to the next hangar.
3ស៊ីនីសការ៉េបាទហើយ x 1
This new A350 will soon be flying for China's Southern Airlines. Millions of people will be putting their lives and their trust in the work performed by Arnaud Herrier and his team.
តម្រូវចុងធ្នូវាមកអស់មកអត់សម្រួលបានទេណាធ្នូខុសគ្នា
2.5 million individual parts are installed in an A350 when finished, and they all have to be present, of course. Not even one part can be missing.
នៅលើ3ស៊ីនីសការ៉េ x ទៅគុណជាមួយនឹងខាងលើនោះ
Airbus gathers together the parts for its aircraft at 2 logistics centers. Stored on an area totaling 84,000 square meters, the equivalent of nearly 12 football fields, are aircraft parts and everything needed for the cabin interior, galley, overhead compartments, toilets, and seats.
ហើយខាងក្រោមនេះស៊ីនីស3ស៊ីនីស x ចែក x ដែរ
50 different airlines have ordered the A350. This means 50 different interiors for business, economy, and first class. The logistics specialists supply the components to the assembly hangars as and when needed. This just-in-time process requires precision in supply and demand. David Gaillard is the head of the airlock center. He must be aware of what parts are needed at all times. If just a single curtain is missing, the aircraft cannot be delivered, and the entire production line grinds to a halt. Bearing in mind the number of outstanding orders for the A350, a disaster, David tries to avoid delivery bottlenecks and delays by way of stock keeping.
Airbus's strategy involves looking to see where the greatest expertise in a particular discipline is located. This is why we work with many factories in Europe and indeed throughout the world too, if you include all of our subcontractors. The logistics are highly complex, and that's precisely the challenge our department faces. We coordinate everything and take delivery of parts from all over the world that arrive by plane, train, ship, and of course by road too. We're talking about 40,000 deliveries a week.
On parle de 40 000 réceptions par semaine.
And every single delivered item is checked and logged by David's staff. If any part turns out to be damaged, his team immediately organizes its replacement or repair.
In time.
Components for the A350 arrive on a near-daily basis by plane 7 days a week, from early in the morning until midnight. And then there are the machines waiting to be delivered. Airbus has its own tower in order to coordinate all these flights for the factory in Toulouse. Air traffic controllers don't just monitor the air traffic. Alexandre Clavier has an overview of the entire factory site on his monitors. He also coordinates the movement of aircraft between the hangars. Every machine to be maneuvered from one station to the next needs his approval and clearance. Alexandre and his colleagues have to coordinate 50 aircraft movements each day. And that doesn't even account for the rest of the site traffic.
Fox, Whiskey, Bravo, Charlie. Okay, cleared for takeoff after the fire truck.
Roger, we're pushing back. Cleared for takeoff. Bravo, Charlie.
Airbus shares the runway with the public airport at Toulouse-Blagnac. Alexandre's team also coordinates the cargo flights with the tower there. A Beluga XL, the prototype for an even larger transport aircraft, has just landed.
Airbus 42X Lima, roulé Whiskey, Sierra 32, Zulu unité pour Pierre 8.
The existing Beluga fleet
Nó khó
alone
từ nào.
clocks up over 10,000 flight hours each year.
En fait, nous gérons
We coordinate two types of flights. Those of the development
ពឹង
department
ប្រា
and
រូ
those
ប
of
មន្តមួយទៀត
production. The
ស៊ីន
ones
3X
for the
នេះពឹងខ្លាច
development
គ្នាយើងអ
department
ត់
are
ទាន់ជួប
prototypes. The flights for production are
នេះ
aircraft
យើងធ្លាប់
destined
ជួប
for
តែ
customers,
សនី
for
2X
example,
ក៏
that are
2X
being delivered to
ប្រើ
airlines.
នោះទៅវាចូលឆា
Two
ប់ប៉ុ
air
ន្តែ
traffic controllers
អ
are
ត់
always
អត់
on
ងាយ
duty
ឃើញ
at the
ចម្លើយ
same
មួយ
time.
ណាមួយគឺ
The
យើង
air
ហើយជា
traffic
គិត
control
ដល់
officer responsible for
តែ
the
គឺយើងខ្លះ
frequency
ដឹងហើយ
controls
ស
the
នី
air
3X
traffic
នឹង
in
វា
real
ស្មើ
time.
អី
va gérer le trafic en temps réel.
And we
Nhưng
also
mà
have a
muốn đăng á.
coordination officer who is in permanent contact
Tại vì
with the
cho anh
tower in
phím.
Blagnac and the flight test center in
ខ្លាច
order
អ្នក
to
ខ្លះ
get
អត់ទាន់
takeoff
បាន
clearance
ជួប
for the
ស្រាយតាម
pilots.
នោះ
He
គឺគោ
organizes
ពា
the
ក់ព័ន្ធ
takeoffs.
ដែរ
Pour les pilotes. Et donc,
អូ
il
ខេ
va permettre le
គ្រូ
départ en
skip
vol.
limit នឹងមួយ
The Airbus
Đang khó khăn nào thế?
A350 reaches
អ
station
និយាយ
30.
និយាយ
The lower the
ត្រី
number,
រត់
the
ជួយ
closer
ថ
the
តចេញពី
aircraft
អា
is to
ហ្វាល់ដើម
completion.
មក
លោកផ្ញើ
បាច់
ចូល
សរ
ក្រុ
សេ
ម
រ
ប៉ាលោកគ្រូ
Francois,
Rồi.
head of cabin installation, checks the
Chào
fittings
cô.
of the business class seats. Quality control has done its job and identified minor defects. The inspectors have discovered problems with the movement of the seat backs. An expensive business class seat is expected to function flawlessly. High travel comfort is an important component of modern air transport for Airbus, the airlines, and for the increasingly discerning passenger.
វាយូរអាហ្នឹង
Airbus promises A350 passengers higher levels of comfort in all classes. Seats, lighting, cabin pressure, and cabin noise levels have been significantly improved. The noise level, for example, is 4 times lower than in comparable
កុំឲ្យ
aircraft,
ខាតពេល
a benefit that mustn't compromise quality in
ចូលទៅ
other
ឆ្លើយ
areas.
អ្នកផ្សេងចឹងប៉ុន្តែគូណែនាំចឹង
At this station,
Yo
we install
vi
all the
tay
seats from economy
Nè.
to business class.
Donc la première étape,
Ni
c'est
vậy
de
thì
rentrer le
dù
siège
quỳ
dans l'avion.
thì ọt miền vị
Colleagues
trí
from
người ta
the
vị
quality
trí tầm
control
một
department check whether the seats have been installed properly.
này nó cực kèm
If necessary, defects are rectified by the seat manufacturer.
Puis nous avons éventuellement des reworks qui sont faits par nos partenaires qui fabriquent les sièges.
While the remedial
Có bay
work
anh
is
này
going on,
Nè.
another team
bay X
installs
của
the
bay
seats in
tới
economy
kia
class.
PX bột X ấy thì bột
The
B
fuselage of the A350 has an especially large
cột
diameter,
B,
hence the suffix
bột
XWB,
nè,
which stands
B,
for extra wide body.
cột A
In its standard configuration, the
có bay Việt Nam
A350
nhiều
1000 can accommodate 366 passengers,
Tôi đang
but
viết
it's
ra nó
also possible to fit 10
tu gần như
seats
thật
per
slide
row.
rồi tóc
This would
của
allow the
bụi
aircraft to carry as many as 440 passengers. Claire Sescon is the deputy
đi
head of
biết nơi
Station
tập
30.
phim là lại thế
She
bài tuần ăn phim
supervises
thế
and coordinates 30 electricians
Rồi
and
trái mau nấu.
mechanics who perform the preliminary function tests and take care of small repairs at the
Rồi
same
đây
time.
Bonjour.
nè
Tu vas bien?
Ça va et vous?
Ça va. C'est bon? Tout avance comme tu veux?
luận màu vào
Ok, parfait.
In contrast with every other assembly line at Airbus, the mechanical
ăn
and
phim
electrical
cao mùi
systems of
bắt
the
đầu đi
A350 are worked on in parallel.
cái này
C'est beaucoup de
It is
À,
a
chẳng
great
limit ní.
responsibility to take care of the safety of the employees and of the
dương chuột
aircraft,
nghe sai
especially here at Station
bắt đầu
30,
tiền
where different
pro màu
departments
nít
work
tục ở nghe dương
simultaneously.
chôn là thường hạt
Quality
hay là
control,
vô
production,
pin này
and
nó
testing.
activités en parallèle avec
bà
différentes équipes.
chẳng hạn ní
The
skip tục
key to
này
our
tại
successful work lies in the harmonious
ai kêu này
cooperation
nó nghe
required
mày
to
tí
build the aircraft on time,
này
to
nó
the
hay
highest
hao mua
quality,
màu tới bị xét
and to everyone's safety.
bị xét sao ấy kì đằng ấy bên phương
Et
như
en
xa
sécurité
tẹt
pour
tới
tout le monde.
There are specialists for every task.
Cái cái
As
cái
a reminder,
Sorry, breakdown mid in
Will
the
this be
bell.
ready soon?
Après,
Yes, the specialists will drill the holes shortly and then we can carry on.
on reviendra monter après.
Perfect. Super.
ត្រីកោណមានសើតែត្រីកោណមានទេចឹង
J'ai grandi à
I
Toulouse,
grew up in
donc,
Toulouse.
j'ai toujours vu
So
des
សើត្រី
I
កោណមាន
always
ហ្នឹង
saw
សើគេ
planes
លីមីត
and watched
គំ
them
ផ្លេច
maiden flights.
dans cette entreprise.
ឬក៏
The
សើ
residents
ត្រី
of
កោណមាន
Toulouse
ហ្នឹងទេរវេ
have always been surrounded by aviation. For me,
limit
working here
limit hay
was a
like
dream from an early age.
travailler dans les avions.
Ở trong for limit một mà chẳng.
Today, Claire supervises how workers here at Station 30 add the finishing touches to the A350. The workers, for example, close the last gap between the fuselage and the wing at the side of the aircraft.
Hay thôi bị mau là lớn đấy. Hay đăng cho mua để trao cho thua luôn để thờ cho từ từ lẽ đấy. Bây giờ bà cho tới live comment đi. Hay cho dừng nhà bàn nè. Dụ cho họ muối.
In the cargo hold, electrician Cedric Lomond is testing the cable. 180 kilometers of cable are installed in every A350. Keeping track of everything here is a complex undertaking.
In position now.
Đặt ngay thiết đôi xây rót ra lọ. Buổi dương bên phê chờ này thì đại ấy cục
Okay.
chẳng mà vì lô đại nhưng mưa xây rót muối.
Connected to ground.
The electricians test every single cable in the aircraft. All the systems are still accessible for now.
We're testing the cables. This involves increasing the voltage in order to find out if the resistance is high enough. These are the cables that control the engines.
After the test, Cedric's colleague seals off all the connectors again. No dirt can be allowed to get into this sophisticated control system. All of the cables that the pilots use to control the aircraft's functions converge in front of the cargo hold below the cockpit. Safety-related systems are installed in duplicate for redundancy. Specialists inspect every single cable connection here too, irrespective of how difficult they are to get to. They're always conscious of their responsibility. Any mistake that electrician Nicolas Vignier makes now could have fatal consequences.
This is where the electronic control systems are located, the heart of the aircraft, as it were. When doing my job, I often think about all the passengers who will board this aircraft someday and set off on their travels with complete confidence.
Lui faire confiance pour leur voyage, nous faire confiance pour leur voyage, voilà.
Once all the function tests have been completed, the aircraft moves on to the penultimate station, Station 20, where its engines will be fitted. The A350 is powered by two state-of-the-art turbofan engines, developed exclusively for this aircraft by Rolls-Royce. It's the most fuel-efficient commercial aircraft engine in the world, the Trent XWB. The engine specialists hydraulically raise the massive turbine up to its mounting points below the wing. They bolt the 8-ton, 50,000 horsepower engine to the aircraft wing using just two mounting brackets.
Okay.
The massive turbine consists of more than 20,000 components, most of them fitted together by hand. Once the turbine is secure on the pylon, the hydraulic transport vehicle is lowered back down. A single turbine costs almost 32 million euros, so great care must be taken when maneuvering. Each of the two engines generates 374.5 kilonewtons of thrust. Each turbine consists of 22 titanium blades and has a diameter of nearly 3 meters. During takeoff, the engine takes in over a metric ton of air each second. Rolls-Royce uses state-of-the-art ceramic coatings inside the combustion chamber because, in this turbine, the air-fuel mixture burns at extremely high temperatures, in excess of 2,000 degrees Celsius. The upshot? Around 15% lower fuel consumption and significantly better emission levels than its predecessor. In addition to this, Trent XWB engines are much quieter than any other aero turbine, essential for planes flying over heavily populated conurbations. Before Airbus shipped the first A350 in December 2014, aircraft and engines were subjected to extensive stress tests under extreme climatic and weather conditions that the aircraft would not have to endure during normal operation. Back at Station 20, cabin integrator Laurent Barateau sets about making the last few minor adjustments. Everything must be just right and adhere to the highest standards to ensure acceptance by the customer. Every reading light must be angled properly. No scratches must be allowed to ruin the impression. The list price of an A350-1000 is almost 330 million euros. So the customer understandably expects to receive a first-class product.
At this point, we examine everything again very closely and place great emphasis on protecting the cabin, as all the elements are very expensive. If you install them, you should avoid damaging them. As several jobs are always being performed inside the aircraft at the same time, everything has to be well protected. Unfortunately, however, we sometimes find some damage or we discover during testing that a seat doesn't work properly. Then we have to rectify the issue.
Just a couple of days until completion. Time for the plane to receive its paint job. The painters apply 5 coats of paint. A polyurethane paint with low volatile